This broadcast is the property of Codependents Anonymous. Reproduction without written permission from Codependents Anonymous is not permitted.
Number one, oh, good, we're recording. Got it. Number one is usually they'll up the ante and ask you a question in a different way so you can say yes to that one because you obviously didn't, misunderstood them the first time. And you're going to say no again or let me think about that again. And then they get, they have already factored you into whatever they're doing. Now you're a cog in the wheel. Now you're a problem. And they might start calling you names. They might call you selfish. They might cut off your friendship. If they cut off your friendship, that's actually a good thing. There's something that uses you once in a while. However they react is not for you to fix. Grown-ups, they'll work it out. Don't worry about that. And I threw in the levels of friendship just because we're going to be dealing with so many types of people who have not seen this yet might benefit from it. Okay. There is, in my opinion, now this is my opinion, this is not cast in stone anywhere. There are 6 different levels of friendship. There are no zeros. Everybody in the world fits in here somewhere. There's superficial, familiar, friendship, intimate relationship.
With the cutting out, I'm sorry to, I wonder, suggest if maybe you turn your video off, the bandwidth will let the audio go through and not cut off.
The video off. My slide presentation?
No, just your video of you.
Okay, hold on. Stop video.
That might help it. Thank you. We'll see if that works.
Oh, because you can still see. I get it. Okay, let's hope that works. I got some really fun stuff today. Well, fun for me, not fun for you. Okay, intimate, loving relationship and committed partnership. But they're all different levels of friendships that you can have. Excuse me. I just getting over a cold and I have that throaty part now. I sound like Greta. To all you young folks, she had a very sexy low voice. Hope that helps. So all relationships start in the superficial. Most of your relationships will stay here. That's not negative. Each level is a unique and healthy relationship. It is never a goal to move people forward. Each person will drop into a category depending on their behaviors. So number one, superficial. Here we are. I'm going to get this right somehow. Superficial. This is the one that I call the insignificant level. This is where everybody starts. Everybody's a number one right now. The people you haven't met, they're number ones. There are no zeros. I keep getting asked by my sponsors, are you sure there's no zeros? I am sure about that. Superficial. This is the insignificant level where everyone you meet will start. Level 1 is for people you've just met, and it's also for people who have been moved back from higher levels. Even though you've moved somebody forward, if you moved it too fast, you can move. It's fluid. Forward and backwards. The people here are strictly surface relationships. There's no expectations or obligations. Keep all your personal information to yourself. I don't know why I used to tell everybody my life story upon first meeting them, but that's what I did. I don't know why. I think we kind of all are guilty of that, apparently. For me, I was probably trying to get people to feel sorry for me. That kind of worked, but not really. Okay, number 2, level is casual and familiar. This person has moved forward from level 1 due to common ground such as co-workers, schoolmates, recovery people, and things like that. During this probation stage, you can evaluate them to determine whether they can move forward to another level or just stay here. Most of the people you know are going to be number 2. They're going to be 2s or 1s. Actively look for and don't dismiss or make excuses for them when you see red flags. How do they treat animals? That's a big deal breaker for me. Anybody who mistreats an animal is off. If I had a 0, that would be them. How do they talk about their ex? If they talk down about that ex, they're going to talk bad about you too. Do they complain a lot? How do they treat their mother? That's another big one. Are they a victim? Do they criticize you? Do they try to fix you? Do they try to isolate you? That's a dangerous one. Faith, I'm going to mute you if you don't mind. There we go. conform to you. Try to conform. They're codependent because that's what we do. That's our role. Okay. So far, you've only met their representative, and that's the person they want you to know. This is the person I want you to think I am. And it's usually the person they wish they were. Okay. So you've been introduced to them, and it takes about 90 days for them to drop their guard and show themselves. It's 90, drop your guard. Introduced each other to your representatives until you get healthy. After you get healthy, this doesn't apply to you. Once they feel comfortable, you'll see them for the first time. Recheck for red flags if you're considering moving them forward, and check your own behavior. Are you being authentic with them, or are you conforming to one of your with them? Number 3, companionship.
There was a question wanting to know what conforming looks like to you.
Conforming, I have a perfect example. I don't really care for jazz, hard jazz, but if you like hard jazz, I like it too. And not only that, I can even drop some names of some big stars and things like that. Very good at that. So I would conform to whatever you like, I like. Okay. And if that doesn't answer your question, please re-ask. All right, companionship. This level begins your one-on-one relationships. Up until now, it's just group level stuff. It's been at least 90 days, and they are off probation. Potential non-romantic roommates should be at least a number 3 and before you consider moving in with them. How many times have you moved in with somebody you thought was really nice and really fantastic, and then you get moved in and it's like a stranger living in the house with you? Then you see all their bad stuff because the deal is done. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. For romantic relationships at level 3, you might start deciding whether this is a sacred or devoted relationship, or is it just a friendship? Devoted would mean the two of you decide to be faithful to each other. That's what I mean by that. Or are you just going to be friends? You can begin to share personal information at this level and see if it flows both ways. Excuse me. And see if it remains confidential. Your relationships.
Just lost you.
Sorry?
We just lost you. You said relationships and then stop.
Uh-oh. Am I back?
Yes,
Can you
you're
hear me
back.
now? Okay. Wow. I'm so sorry. I got.
And it just cut out again.
Oh, man. Am I back?
It might be a good idea to leave and rejoin the meeting.
She's the presenter.
To do what?
To leave and rejoin.
Leave and rejoin?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's try it. I'm leaving. I've had enough. Let's see. Leave.
Okay, that's all technology and higher power at work. So, Carol, keep an eye out when she comes back. You need to make a co-host. So hopefully there was a link and her slides are in will be at least mailed. And
there's a suggestion that everybody remain muted when she comes back.
I think we've all been pretty well muted. Yeah, so I hope if she can't rejoin, I hope somebody in the audience is ready and willing to step up and give a presentation.
Place your razor. Recording in progress. That's good. Let me get back to where I was. And share screen, share screen. This is going to be fun. Host is disabled. Can you make me a co-host real quick? Okay, thank you. Yay, look at that. Just like I was never gone. Okay, companionship. This begins your one-on-one relationships. It's been at least 90 days. They're off probation. Potential non-romantic roommates should at least be a 3 before you consider moving in with them. That's a big choice to move in with somebody and with them as a roommate. If they're not a 3, you don't know anything about them. You might start deciding whether this is a secret or devoted relationship or just a friendship. By devoted, I mean not faithful to each other. You can begin to share personal information at this level to see if it flows both ways and to see if it's kept confidential. Your relationships must be equal at each level. Don't get in a hurry to move someone forward from a 3. This is a nice level. If you have somebody at a 3 and they have you at a 6, that's a problem. They're codependent. If they have you at a 1, then you need to go backwards. Don't try to make them a 3 just because you are. Number 4, friendship. Put that up. Yay. Friendship, your friend has made it to the dissections of levels 1, 2, and 3. You can begin to share private information with them. This is a partnership between 2 people who value each other equally. If you find that your friend has you at a 2 and you have them at a 6, move them back to a 2. This is where the relationship belongs for now. As a 4, you naturally spend more time with this person than other people, and it feels closer from everyone else. This is the stopping point for most of your non-romantic friends. Sorry to keep clearing my throat. 5, intimate and loving relationship. This is where the romantic people start coming in. This is a mutually deep friendship with shared passions and respect. Your sponsor will often fit into this category while taking the steps. When you discuss deeply private information, you know your privacy will be respected. Time spent together, even more trust and respect. You can take bigger risks with each other now. This is a stopping point for a few select close friendships. And finally, Valhalla. Number 6 is a committed partnership. This is the only level where marriage can be considered. A faithful, trustworthy, loving, and fearless relationship. This person is so valuable, they become an integral part of your daily life. You both share responsibility for the relationship and honor each other. This is the person you can honestly say you want to be with as long as you're both alive. Okay, that's what I'm talking about with friends. And let's go over some scenarios together. It's going to be fun. Oh, this is an old one. Okay, you are invited to lunch. When it's time to pay, the person who invited you, their card doesn't work, their credit or debit doesn't. What do? I'll take some hands. Anyone have an idea what they would typically do in this circumstance? What would you do? Because they're probably embarrassed right now, and you know how that feels. Hi, Melissa. What do you think?
I would pay for it.
Okay, thanks, Melissa. Yeah, probably 90% of people. Connie, what would you do?
I would pay for it.
Thanks, Connie. B, how about you?
I would ask them if they one, I could pay for it, but also then I would start discussing a plan maybe that they could pay me back. Do they have Venmo or some way to transfer money to my account?
Okay, thank you, B. And let's see, I saw another person with their hand up. See, Yvette. No, I'm sorry, Tracy. Tracy's first.
I'd ask them what they, I'd just wait and see what they would want. And then when they offer something, I'd see what might fit for me.
That is what the woman in question did. That was her response. She did nothing. She said it was the most uncomfortable 3 minutes of her entire life. She was only halfway through the steps at that time. Let's see, Tracy, I got you. Yvette, what would you do?
I was curious with the question, the invitation, I guess there was no specifics identified. Are we going to go Dutch? Is that something that you talk about before? Do you go Dutch? Do the person invite you? Is that typically the person who pays? Right. So those are some of the things that I have concerns about with relationships. I don't always know if that makes sense.
Yes, that's a good question. And in this case, he invited her to lunch. So, and she's had experience with this gentleman. That means he's paying. So she didn't set it up first, but that's a really good way to get rid of the embarrassment. Deborah A.
Hi, I'm Deborah, and recovered codependent. Thank you so much for this.
You're welcome.
This in two different instances, and one time a male friend invited me for lunch, and I had been on dates with men before, and they paid for it. So when the bill came, he looked at me like, well, are you going to pay your, it's like, oh, well, I said, okay.
Huh?
Anyway, so, and he said, until it's talked about or whatever. So anyway, but then another time I went to the movies with a girlfriend, invited her, and she didn't have the money. And this happened several times. And I kept paying. And then one day she showed up with a new used car, and I'm driving a much older car, and I'm thinking,
wow.
Yeah. So anyway, that's
how.
So
that's why she has a new car, though. She doesn't pay her way.
Yeah, and I even picked her up, and I was the driver. That's what happened.
Wow.
Because I had a car to go to college, and these other friends didn't. But anyway, and so
so she is at most a number 2 for you. That kind of a person is at most a number 2, probably a number 1. No expectations, no obligations. So most of my family members are 1s. So.
Yeah, you're right. Thanks for pointing it all out. This is wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Deborah. Janice, what do you think?
Hi. So I guess, originally, now that people have shared a little bit more, I guess it would, again, depend on the nature of the relationship, what level we're at, right? Generally, it's something that, I always assume Dutch, unless, even if someone does invite me to lunch, I assume Dutch. But if I didn't have the money, it would be something that would be discussed before I even got there. But if, this was I think at any level, depending, like if it's an employer or something like that, it would be a discussion like, let me grab it now. And, if they didn't offer, let me reimburse you. It would be, just let me know how you want to pay me back and put myself out there. And it is uncomfortable. I think it gets easier, at least for me, it's gotten easier over time of just doing it, doing things like that rather than walking away and feeling resentful after if I did something that I really didn't want to do. Yeah,
especially if you don't have a lot of money. This might be part of your rent, depending on where they took you. If it's McDonald's, I'm sure you're okay. But if it's a star restaurant, not.
Yeah, I think it's been easier for me just to look at the impact of who it impacts besides me. Like I was a single mom for many, many years. So that money, like you said, if I didn't have the money, it's like, no, this doesn't just impact me, it impacts someone else. So
good. Yeah. Very good. Thank you. Debbie, what do you think?
Yeah, I was thinking along the same lines of what the previous caller is that depends on my relationship with the person. I have some very good friends and we kind of alternate paying, and it's really not a deal. Money's fluid. And then I have other people that I'm more cautious with. And then I have some people that it's just always Dutch. And so I don't know what the relationship of the person who invited, and that makes a big difference on how I'm going to respond. So I can't tell enough by just that little scenario on what I would do in this situation.
Right. Thank you, Janice. I brought us back to companionship. This is most, actually, that's not, companionship at 3, you're probably right off. You've already discussed this. You're not afraid of that person anymore. So you put it at a 2 or a 1 set the rules first. I'll just see what's going on. Okay, first, let's see. Christy.
I think it would depend on how comfortable I felt with our friendship. And at that moment, I would say the words, I'll pay this time. But if we get into another opportunity to have lunch together, I would then ask the question, well, are we going Dutch, or how are we going to pay? Yeah. And then I would feel more comfortable with accepting the second invitation to lunch, or just simply decline.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a good one. Kevin.
This comes from the chat. They suggest they would probably drive the host to his bank and suggest going in and getting some money out, and then they can go back and enjoy a wonderful meal together.
That did not occur to me.
Gold.
That's fantastic. I didn't even, that wasn't even on my radar. Anyone else want to tell us what they're doing? What they would do? Doug, what would you do?
I would, if someone's going to
reverb.
Let me get away next to someone else on here. Here's what I would do. I would not agree to have someone buy my lunch usually. I would say, hey, it has to be Dutch. I'd buy someone else lunch on their birthday or something like that, a special, but I don't like having someone else buy my lunch, and I'd rather just go Dutch, and that's what I would insist on from the beginning.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me share.
You're welcome. Yeah, that's it goes back to the 7 tradition. We're self-supporting. Sarah, what would you do?
I would feel uncomfortable stealing from the restaurant because I did consume, and I guess not paying and leaving that situation up to the person who also can't pay is kind of, it feels to me like I'm being complicit in stealing from the restaurant, which goes against my values. So I would certainly pay the restaurant, and then I would just, if this is a person who's invited me to lunch before, it sounds like you told me, and this person's always paid in the past. So here I am going on a repeated lunch date where this person has bought lunch for me before. And I think this is probably like a level 3 relationship because I've accepted these invitations. I would gratefully pay for my companion's lunch as well. As long as there was that back and forth going on. It sounded like we'd been on some lunch dates before. I had my lunch paid for. I believe the intention was for my lunch to be paid for again. I'm not going to steal from the restaurant. I like hanging out with this person, so I'm going to pay for their lunch happily.
Nice. Thanks, Sarah. Nema.
Hi. I would probably ask for separate checks when I got there. That's technically what I do most of the time. And everyone's responsible for themselves, basically. If
Right.
that's
a good idea. That's a good idea, because then if they say, no, I'm going to pay, you would know right up front.
That's their lien with the restaurant. I'm not responsible for someone else's lien. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Nema. Let's see, Carl.
Hi. I think in the past, I would just not think about it and just pay. But more recently now, thinking about codependency and things, I think I would just explore my feelings in the moment and just see what I actually felt comfortable with in that specific case and go with that. So I'd do it based on what my feeling was about my comfort level for that specific instance.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Marlene. Marlene.
Hey, everybody. Karen, thanks for the presentation. I just, Nema took my answer about in the beginning. We asked for separate checks. It's just, I like to take responsibility in the beginning. So, and sometimes I'll say, we only have an hour and, separate checks. That way, we don't linger on and, take too much time if we're just on a lunch break. And back in the day, I used to always expect the other person to pay if they invited me. I'd probably be blown away on a fancy dinner if I had to pay. And like this one gentleman said, oh, I only have $70. And I thought, what's wrong with you? In my head. And I really didn't have the gratitude, for that earning capacity. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Marlene. And back in the old days when we'd go to lunch, I remember this clearly. We'd have a couple of martinis at lunch and then go back to work. I don't know whatever happened to those were the good days before it turned bad, of course. Let's see. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. Hatanba?
Natasha.
Sure. What do you think?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, so for the interpretation, do I just start or do we need to do anything else?
Okay, yep, you get it set up ahead of time. Okay, Lisa
So
B.
I can...
I'm sorry. Natasha?
Yes, I've been assigned as co-organizer of the conference.
I'll have Carol reach out to you. I'll have Carol reach out to you for what you need to do for interpretation.
Oh, sorry. I thought I was unmuted. I will take just 2 seconds to say that you're not connected, Natalia, and I'm working on it. So, and my apologies to everybody.
It is all right. So nobody can hear me or what?
Oh, everybody can hear you.
Everybody
all right. So you mean I'm not connected as an interpreter?
Correct. Let's go to WhatsApp.
I see.
I'll speak to you on WhatsApp.
Окей. Для российской аудитории я сейчас...
Lisa, what do you think?
Oh, hi. I couldn't hear you. I love this topic. And I know that I've made some progress with CoDA because when this would happen, the silence and the awkwardness would just make me volunteer my debit card or my credit card. What I found is now I am taking some time to think about what I'm going to do, but a lot of times I treat it with humor, and it's funny. But my daughter, when she was little, we talked about Care Bears, and it was like sharing is caring. So a lot of times with these people that I am, in the situation with, I'm like, well, sharing is caring. Who's it gonna be today? So it's still not being as comfortable with the silence as I should be, but progress, not perfection. So I appreciate this. Thank you for presenting it.
Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, the patterns play a big part here because you're going to dump right into, if you get uncomfortable, as we do, we're going to dump right into our major pattern, mind's avoidance. So I'd probably run to the bathroom. I don't know. So let's see. Lisa still has her hand up. I'm going to take that down. And 2 other people had their hands. I'm going to let that. Leslie, and Yvette. Okay, Leslie.
Yes, hello. So thank you for the presentation so far. I really appreciate it. For me, I really enjoy paying for folks, especially if they have treated me in the past. So for me, it would be a pleasure to pay for someone who has treated me in the past. And if I had resource issues, like if I was low on funds, I would just let them know that I need if I couldn't treat and just and be good, I would let them know that it's like within the next couple of days, I would like some sort of repayment, so I could pay my bills. But if I'm able to afford it, I would probably openly give it to them.
That's nice. Okay, thank you, Leslie. Yvette.
Hi, I really need this because I'm my social skills before CoDA were lacking, and so now that I'm in CoDA, I know that there have been times that I paid and I felt resentful regarding it. It's finding that language to say, can we do this or that? And a lot of times when I reach out to people to go to lunch, it's just join me. Would you like to join me? And then the assumption, I don't know, the communication gets blurred, and I get there and they're assuming that, the check gets passed between us two. And then, what is the language to say, this is just Dutch? Right. I mean, it's the communication as a codependent has been very difficult. So I do need some help in this area. I really do. Thank you.
Thank you. And this actually goes back to which level is it? Casual. When you're looking for red flags, this is probably one of them. Do they make you pay all the time? Do they just take you to a nice restaurant and then slide the bill over to you? That's happened to a friend of mine. She said, well, that's the end of that relationship, such as it was. The lady that had this happen, Pedro, what would you do?
Hello, I'm Pedro. I'm a codependent, and I don't speak very well English. And just thinking about make me sweat a bit. And it would be different if it was a woman or a man, but in both cases, I will just, unfortunately, and it's so strong in me, I would just pay. Even if I didn't had the money, I will do whatever. So, but I know that's why I'm here. Thank you.
That's why. Yeah, that's why we're here. That's what we would do. Joy, what would you do?
Well, all my life prior to recovery, I would definitely pay. Definitely. And then I would get mad at people when I was in that situation and they didn't do it back to me.
Because they made you pay, they made you, right?
Well, just that I was having their back and then they didn't have my back. And then I would say, well, remember the last time when you lost your car? And then they were like, I don't like when people throw stuff back up in my face. So I have a lot of people who said I do things for people and I throw it back up in their face. And mainly it's because I felt like being a good friend or a good person was helping a damsel or in distress. And most of the people around me did not have that same sentiment. So now in recovery, if this would happen, I will wait for them to, because most people say, well, I never asked you either. You volunteered. So now I would wait for them to ask me. And then I would say, I'm doing this, but I would need you to pay me back as soon as possible, maybe in 3 or 4 days. So we'll know it. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I think I would do now in recovery.
Yeah. If I did that, I would make sure and do that away from other people. They're already embarrassed. I guess you don't need to embarrass them further. That was the first thing I thought of. But thank you. That's what you just told my story. See, Burl, what would you do?
Hi, my name's Burl. I'm codependent. What I have always done in the past is I would just go ahead and pay. And I had a friendship relationship with a lady years ago, and it was always when we went anywhere, did anything, even went on vacations and such together, I paid. We weren't dating, and I finally just told her, said, if we're not going to be dating, we need to. She didn't want to date me, but she just wanted me to pay for everything.
Oh, that's sort of a relationship. Sort of a relationship. So I told her, said, I need you to treat me like you would one of your girlfriends when it comes to paying and everything. And she didn't. It would be like we'd go someplace and it was all just automatically assumed that I would be the one who paid. And finally, I had to end the relationship and I had to recognize my own weakness that with this particular person, I could not stop myself from getting codependent triggered with her. And so, I ended that years-long relationship. A year. Boy, that's hard and probably a very expensive one.
You're breaking up, Karen. I didn't make out what you had to share.
Stop. Okay, maybe that'll help. I don't know. Because it's a long lesson and an expensive one. The whole year out of your life. Wow. Okay, thank you.
It was several years, like a decade or more.
Gee whiz, Burl.
Well,
bet you don't do that anymore.
Yeah, not much.
There you go.
At least I know how to get out of it.
So. Oh, yeah. Bianca, what do you think?
Thanks.
Hi, everyone. Bianca, Grateful Recovering Codependent. I just wanted to say thank you for putting on this presentation, first of all, and for everyone's service. And this has just been a very interesting conversation. I was in the chat mostly and wasn't going to respond, but it's been very interesting to hear like how everyone feels about it. And for me, like, I just know that from my, journey in this codependent recovery, it's very much like, who do I have in my life? What relationships I'm cultivating? What my level?
No, but I'm trying to like make a compromise with you. Like if you want 4-bedroom, I'll
Natalia's back. Sorry.
That's okay. Just like what my level of comfortability with the person is, and like the environment I put myself in. So like I've had friends do this, and it's like it's not malicious. They didn't just like show up with $3 and we're like, "Ooh, I'm gonna try to get her to pay." It's like that genuine like. My just whatever isn't working. And so I just try to like keep those people in my life, not the people that are going to try to take advantage, and also like try to take into consideration, if I am going to pay, I'm not going to be resentful because this is a conscious choice that I am making.
Right. Yeah.
And
That's
having
really
that honest conversation with the person up front to be like, oh, hey, like, just Venmo me, or like, because this happens a lot with my best friend, not being able to pay, but like, oh, I got you, or like, yeah, I'll get you next time. And we always even out. So it's just like, from my experience in CoDA and having worked in the steps, it's just like, just show up as my authentic self, whether that is someone who can pay for someone else or not, and just being honest about it. Because if I'm trying to like compensate or try to, impress them or something, like that's not going to get me anywhere. So it's just being honest and whatnot. But like I said, I've appreciated this and all of the shares. Thank you.
Thank you, Bianca. Last one, Elizabeth, what would you do? Elizabeth.
Hi.
She is. Hi.
Hi. Hi, I'm Elizabeth. I'm a grateful codependent. And Karen, thank you so much for this presentation. And thank you for all the great shares. Quickly, I was going to say that I was going on the assumption that this was a first time meeting. And with that being said, it reminded me of a couple things. One, that typically I would pay just because I wouldn't want the person to feel uncomfortable, and just going on the assumption it's the first time, and I would say something to the effect, okay, I'll pay this time, and just pay, with the assumption that next time they would pay, if there was going to be a next time,
right.
And assuming it was going to be Dutch. But with that being said, I was invited on a date by this guy, and he literally said, okay, and we split some appetizers, and he said, okay, well, you had 3 mushroom caps and 4 zucchinis, and and I was so disgusted. I just plopped $20 down and walked out of the restaurant. Needless to say, that was the last time we got together.
Yeah, that's a big red flag right there.
Oh, yeah. And it's not like I'm a dog or anything. But even if I was, isn't that insulting?
That's crazy. Well, I love thorough people, but that might be going too far. Maybe.
Yeah. Less than zero. Anyway, thank you for letting me share.
You're welcome. So the actual scenario here, this was a sponsee of mine. She was new in running the steps, about 6 months in. And initially we found out her big thing was rescuing people. She was a rescuer. And I said, okay, for the next 90 days, you can't rescue anybody. And she said, okay. So in the middle of this is what happened. So she stood there, and he had definitely invited her out. He was definitely paying, but she stood there and she said, I've never been so uncomfortable in my life, for about 3 minutes while he was figuring this out. And he eventually got it worked out, but she said she was going to wait until he asked for her help. And then of course she would help. And that's how she solved that. And it goes along with don't do for someone else what they can do for themselves. And it's also her patterns. This is compliance and low self-esteem mixed with control. And if it is the first date, do you want to start a relationship like that? So that was great. Thank you, everybody. Here's the next thing. It comes air conditioner, and but she didn't. She was buying it, and she gives you a bill for your share. Should you pay it or refuse, even receiving a benefit from this? If you refuse, what might happen? What do you think? This is tricky.
So many questions.
Leslie, what do you think?
Well, for me, I would probably, if I had a roommate who just bought an air conditioner and gave me a bill, I would just tell them that it was not my decision to buy the air conditioner. And if they want to talk about the bills moving forward and the use of the air conditioner, if it's like a wall unit that that she could put in her room, or she could use for herself, or if it's a benefit of the whole household, I would talk about future uses of it or future payments of it. But that first bill, I would not, I would not agree to paying for.
Yeah, this was a tricky one because you're risking your relationship with the person that you live with. That's a whole different level. Duende, what do you think?
If I refuse to chip in, what might happen? I think that the person would be upset. And in my recovery, I would do my best to calm myself down and allow that person to have their feelings, because I know my trigger would be to cuss the motherfucker out, excuse my French. But in recovery, I would try to calm myself down and I would allow them to be upset. And then I would set a boundary and I would say, please don't ever go and make a unilateral decision that concerns my money. Don't ever do that. So let's set a boundary for that right now. But going forward, I like the air conditioner and I want the air conditioner. So I will chip in, but please don't ever do that again. And we will move forward.
There you go. That's exactly what you did. Thanks to Sarah. What do you think?
I would feel really uncomfortable with her, that situation. And I would just express that if I'm paying for something, I would like to be part of the decision-making process in what is purchased, and that we would shop for together, and we would agree on our price points, and then we would agree where it's placed in the house, and that kind of thing. But if she just bought the air conditioner, and even if she expected me to pay for it going forward, I actually do not like air conditioners. So I would say that I don't, I would hope that she feels comfortable paying for it and also using it and keeping it to herself, that's not at all selfish. I would encourage her to put it in her room. If she wanted to, just let her know that I really actually don't prefer air conditioning. For some reason, it makes me so cold and my skin gets so dry. So I might even complain a little that she bought it.
That's great. Thank you. Well, there's and what she called me immediately. That's the best thing that she's done. She said, I don't know what to do. So I called okay. And I said, tell me you need to think about it. That's the first thing. Because this might cause a roommate relationship to
They're cutting out there, Karen. I don't think we've heard much of this story.
Was somebody speaking? Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, you cut out during that whole explanation of the slide.
Oh no. Okay, let me.
Now it looks like you stopped sharing.
Okay. Well, okay. So what I said, she called me first. She told them she's going to think about it, and she called her sponsor. That's me, and we had to talk. that consequence. Am I coming through, Kevin?
Half and half. I'm beginning to think higher power doesn't want this story told.
Wow.
We heard up to we had a talk and then it cut out.
Oh, wow. That's no good. Gosh, I don't know what to do. Should I join in on a telephone, do you think, or just keep trying?
I think just keep trying.
Yeah. Okay. Depending on whether you can afford to pay it, talk about future purchases. But if you're struggling with finance, negotiate an amount or make an arrangement to trade for something of yours that they might want. But you can give them options. So you can say, if this is your partner, friend, you want to have that conversation about being asked before the purchase is made. If you don't do this, you're setting yourself up as an ATM and your income won't be yours anymore. Now, here's the thing about fear. If you write down all the things that you're afraid of that might happen as a result of this, everything that might happen if you do this, and if you can accept all those consequences, then that's beauty. Okay, let's see. Oh, this was a sad one. Your son tells you he's going to swing by and visit his grandmother while he's in town. He lives in a different state. You tell your mom that her grandson is coming to visit, and she says she doesn't have the time to readjust her schedule. He'll have to come another time. What basic rule did you violate? And what can you tell your son without hurting him? Let's see what we can get here. Yeah.
I'm not sharing the screen anymore.
Okay. Let me try it. Share screen. Okay. And here. Okay, so that's exactly what I said, so you can read it real quick. Gosh. You tell your mom that her grandson is, she says she doesn't have time for him. Basic rule. Did you violate? B, what do you think?
Hi, my name's B. I'm codependent. I think the basic rule that I violated was I stuck my nose in somebody's business that wasn't mine.
That's it, yes. Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I mean, you kind of have information that's going to impact your son swinging by. So, I mean, I guess I might actually tell my mom, maybe you should contact him. I don't know. I would feel awkward telling my son because it highlights that I violated that boundary.
Right.
But also on the other hand, I mean, to be respectful of his time, to tell him, she's not going to be available.
Yeah. It's hard to untriangulate yourself once you're in there.
Yeah.
Thanks. Connie, what do you think?
I think I would tell my son that he needed to call his grandma and, make arrangements for the visit and not get in the middle of that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Once she got in, she couldn't get, if you triangulate yourself that way, you're in. It's hard to get back out of, other than to now turn around and tell your son, you should call your grandmother so she can tell you directly that she doesn't want to see you. It's just, what a terrible situation. But yeah, it's a tough one all the way around. Thank you, Connie. Nema, what do you think?
I would actually be wondering why the son was telling me. Is the assumption that the grandmother lives with me? But either way, if the person's telling me that they're going to do something, I wouldn't make an assumption that means I'm in charge of facilitating their interaction in any way. The son can tell me he's going to go visit his grandma who lives wherever, but it's not up to me that he meets with her. I'm not in charge of my son's happiness if he chooses not to communicate with the person he's visiting.
Yeah, exactly. And the way it was, he was just kind of having a casual conversation with his mom, and he just dropped that in. And then she took it and went like she shouldn't have and told her mom casually, again, in a conversation, by the way, my son's coming out to see you. And it would just the casualness of it. And then all of a sudden it's a big bomb. So yeah, she should not have gotten in the middle. Thank you, Nema. Sandy S. or Pete A?
Yeah, hi. This is Pete. I'm getting an echo. I don't know why, but I was just thinking, the son should tell the mother that he's going to come to visit the mother. He should say something himself. Why do you have to be the go-between to tell your mom? Have the son just go directly to tell the mom himself that the grandson's visiting. Why should you have to be the go-between? Thanks for my input.
Thank you, Pete. Yeah, we did a 4-step on that one because she really got her feelings hurt. And she said, yes, it was my fault for getting in the middle of it. She took responsibility for that eventually, because initially she was just mad and hurt. Julie B.
Thank you, Karen. I'm Julie B., codependent in recovery. What I'm trying to do in my recovery is, in this scenario, I was trying to control, like that was my knee jerk to let me control. So I would process my feelings, and usually it's shame because I made a mistake. So I would go into self-acceptance and forgiveness. And, oops, I opened my mouth too soon. So I would make an amends to myself and to my son, and also like do an affirmation, I'm perfectly imperfect, gently suggest to my son, that I suggest that you speak to your grandmother and I shouldn't have interfered in that. Mm-hmm. And then I would apply step 3 and let go of the outcome, and I'm done with it.
Yeah.
Thank you. I pass.
Thank you. It was really hard. Oh, what do you think?
Yes, I was thinking about what I feel like this person was doing and what I would have been doing if I was a mother is I would have been trying to get high off of someone else's supply, because and I say that because it seems like her son was telling her about something exciting that he was going to do. Uh-huh. And she possibly knew the grandma would be excited too. So calling the other person was like, oh, guess what's happening? All trying to get up into that joy, trying to make myself feel better, trying to cover up my low self-esteem or whatever emotions I'm going through. And so then when the grandma said that, I would tell my son, I think you should call grandma and tell her that you're coming. He might say, like, why? Well, I just think you should call her. I think it would be a good idea. And so that's kind of how I would handle it. I'll pass.
That's so amazing. You got her dead on. She wanted that. So she maybe have a dinner with him or something nice, and it just blew up right in her face. So first I told her, honey, you should not have alerted your mother. In the future, stay the heck out of this. It's between your son and your I advised her, go ahead and tell your son that, it turns out she had plans, honey, maybe next time. And don't triangulate yourself in the future. Learn the lesson. She'd butt out. She's in there. She likes to put herself into the situations where she doesn't belong. So it's a good lesson. These are hard lessons to learn, but they tend to stick around once you learn them. Okay. Oh, here's a fun one. You went out to friends and you just had a salad, but all had steak, and they want to split the bill equally. What do you do? And what do you do going forward? Duente.
In that situation, I would say, now I know I only had a salad and you had a steak. And I know that it's not equal. So if you can't afford it, then I can split it with you. But I just want you to know that a steak and a salad is not equal. Yeah. And I would try to have the dialogue, and then we would make the choice. But I feel like I would have to presence it, because if not, then I would be in avoidance and control and manipulation. And so for my recovery, I would choose to do that.
Yeah. And especially if these people all had drinks, you know how high that bill is going to be. And I don't drink anymore, thank you God. But, if I go out for dinner with people, steaks, drinks, appetizers, all that stuff, and I just ate.
Cut out again there, Karen.
Tracy? Tracy, oh, there she is.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah. This actually happened to me a couple times at going out after church with a large group of people where everybody wants to split it. And I've just kind of figured out what my part would be and said, hey, I got something a lot smaller. In some cases, the tip is about the right amount, so I would cover the tip. Can I just cover the tip and you guys split it? And in other cases, I'd say my portion I think is about this much, and that's what I can pay. And I just left it at that, and everybody was fine with it.
I think that the tag word for codependence is awkward. It always feels so awkward when you actually state a position. Maybe that's why I fear it so much. Always do. So but what if they're cutting into my rent money? There's a lot of things involved here. Leslie, what do you think?
Well, this happens to me a lot, and especially when you talked about the drinks. I'm usually the only person in the group who doesn't drink, and a lot of my friends and family, they love to drink. So it's not usually steak, because I would definitely enjoy my steak, but it's usually drinks, and it's not proportionate at all in terms of contribution. And so for me, over the years, I got really comfortable. It's been about almost 13. Almost 14 years since I've been sober. So I've gotten comfortable over the years having this conversation a lot. And and I say it proudly, like in terms of the drink. I'm like, I don't drink, and you all enjoyed yourself. It was amazing watching you all. But no, I'm not contributing to that. And here's my share. And that's the one time where I feel very comfortable not over contributing. But if it was actually a salad and a steak, depending on how good the meal was and how I was feeling, I probably will contribute to the that part. But because it's not, it's usually the difference is not that much. But with those drinks, the difference is usually substantial. So I really don't want to contribute. And plus, it's a thing around sobriety that I also don't want to pay for people to drink. So I have a backup like excuse as well that I don't pay for anyone to drink. So anyway, thank you.
Or support your habit. Yeah, thanks, Leslie. Yvette, what do you think?
Thank you. What I think is I'm in the right workshop, first of all. The other thing is a lot of these scenarios have actually happened to me. And in this situation, I would have to voice my opinion because you said you have the word friends underlined. And if all I had was a salad, I can't see myself paying the, splitting the bill. And we mentioned drinks and all of these other things that maybe other people had gotten with their meals. So I would just have to voice my opinion and say, I'm just going to pay for the salad. You know, and then I like the idea of adding the tip. If I choose this, if the salad equals the tip, then that would make some good sense as well.
That's a good idea. I didn't even think about that.
Thank you.
I didn't even think about that. That's a good one. Thanks, Yvette. Bianca.
Hi, I'm Bianca, grateful, recovering codependent. So this situation has happened so many times, especially when it comes to like birthday dinners. You get a group of a bunch of people, and like you have that conversation with some people up front, like, they're going to add gratuity, that there's going to be the tip. So like, make sure you have enough money for it all. And then there's always going to be like that person, or there always has been, I should say, that person that's like, I'm going to have more, but like, try to get other people to pay. And so I've been in like those situations where if it's a few dollars, okay, that's one thing. But it's like $20, $15. It's like, okay, this is what I had. And I'm the math person in my like group of friends. I just love math. So I'm always the person like divvying things out. And it also depends, like, did that person, again, it's like malicious. Like, it's like, oh man, we know like Jenny or something, she's been she's been having a hard time. It's like, we got you. But if that person is just like, yeah, I'm trying to get other people to pay for me, it's like maybe we won't go out with you again, because that's really shady behavior. And so now, with my recovery and stuff, I'm like, let's have these conversations up front. Let's be honest about what we're doing, because when you have a big enough group, you can't separate checks. So that's what makes it hard too. So it's just, again, it's like being around people that are honest and open up front, and so that you don't run into these scenarios. And then like moving forward, if that does happen, it's like, okay, this is how things are gonna go, and like this is what is in my comfort level, like what's in yours, and like, cool, we're good, we're gonna have a good time and not worry that this is what's gonna happen.
Wouldn't it be great if we could only go out with codependents that are in recovery?
I was going to say in recovery.
Yeah, it would solve itself. We all, oh, yep, you're right. Okay, never mind.
Hi. Yes. Yes, I'm Elizabeth, and I've had this happen to me where I've had just the salad, and I've been out with people that have had drinks and appetizers and a steak and desserts, and they wanted to split, and then they chip in like $5 and not paying. And I'm serious. They didn't pay for the appetizer, their meal, or a tip. And I was like, guys, in order for us to do this again, and I do want to do this again, I don't want to have a resentment. And, and this is just, and I noticed it was happening more than once. It wasn't just like, okay, we're going to short it. And I really felt taken advantage of. And so I said something, and it was really getting to be a problem. So it was really, really awkward. So
but what would you do differently the next time?
So the next time I said something, and moving forward, so I thought I answered that. So what would I do?
Sorry.
Yeah.
You probably did.
Yeah. So moving forward, I just said, okay, so everybody's going to we're all just going to pay our share, right?
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah. I must have jumped right over that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe I wasn't clear. I apologize.
No worries. See, don't you love codependent people? Oh my goodness, recovery is beautiful.
Yeah, I guess I'm sorry. I guess I didn't answer that properly. I apologize. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah,
no worries, me too.
Yeah. So okay, thank you for letting me share.
Thank you,
Karen,
Julie. What do you think? Yes.
Karen, real quick.
Yes.
So you got about 10 minutes left, so I don't know if there's other scenarios you wanted to get to. But we also had a request if you could put up the 5 types of relationships again, or summarize them.
Yeah, I sure can. And I can also email these, copy of them to whomever wants one. Because that's
everybody who registered with Eventbrite should have a link to all this material, and we'll send it again too.
So I'll leave that up there. And let's see, Julie, what do you think?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Karen. So I'm trying to apply the principles of our program involving these type of situations. So tradition 1 is about our common welfare, and the underlying spiritual principle is unity. Yeah. So these are my friends. So I would definitely, process my feelings first. Then I would ask them about their feelings, and also tradition 1 doesn't mean we don't get our needs met, so it's about all of us having a group discussion, sort of like a group conscience, and in the future, what can be done differently, and kind of have an agreement, and also affirm my friends as well. But it's about communication and unity.
Good. That's great. Thanks, Julie. Sarah.
This one's tricky for me, but I think that I would just, they're friends, so they're the number 4. And I think that I would just go ahead and split the bill, because we've had a friendship that we've moved from superficial to casual to companion into a friendship. So there's some back and forth and some trust. But I would also keep it in mind that it's always available to kick them down to a level 3 or a level 2 or level 1, if that behavior continues. But if it's a friendship and we go out often, sometimes, if I get the more expensive thing, it's just our habit of splitting the bill. I think that it's good to have a discussion about it too, because if it's a friendship, there's some back and forth, and just say, well, why do you want to split it equally? Because you can't do math, and or I say, well, I ordered because I have my budget in mind, and so I got to stick with my budget. Sorry, I can't make it easy for you. Something like that. But if it's our friendship and there is that back and forth, I would happily pay equally.
Okay. Thanks a lot. What do you think?
It's me. Okay, thank you, Karen, for your service, and thank you for the shares that I heard. I would regret being in that situation, and I will just start thinking why I went to that dinner. And I would just be like that. And what I would do, I heard some, I will just pray to my higher power to, in the next time, I will be able to do some of the things that you said. Thank you.
There you go. Thanks, Petra. Just got a few minutes left. Nema?
Hi, this is Nema. I have been the awkward person in a group of friends who just really stuck it out and said, I would like to have a separate check. Yeah. And that might not be very popular. Some people might resent me for wanting to have a separate check, but it's what I would and have requested. Of course, if somebody resents me for that, I'm not responsible for what other people interpret based on that. And I've certainly gone out with all friends before and had everyone on a separate check. It depends on the place, of course.
Okay. Now, that's a good one.
Before Karen, there's been requests for if you're willing to give your information in the chat.
Yes.
At some point, you can do it.
Do that right now. Okay. And let's see, where were we? Deborah?
Hi there, Deborah, recovering codependent. So I've been in this position and I've said, you know what, I'm practicing being self-supporting through my own interests, and I've been told by my sponsor I give too much because I was raised it's better to give than to receive. And so I'm going to pay for my own. I'm going to put it here. And thank you, you guys. Been great.
Thanks, Deborah. Kim, real quick.
Hi, Kim, codependent. For many years, I was the person who had to do this, this pre-CoDA, it would be so awkward, it would make me so anxious that I would weep over it. So just, extremely grateful to CoDA for getting me past that to a point where I can feel confident and comfortable to speak up about this. But at a point now where I would rather do this, because splitting it is I just for convenience, and I'm able to. What I struggle with now is sort of knowing that other people can't, and so I try to open up the space for people to say that they can't, but try not to be very controlling when I know someone can't, and be like, oh, but I know so and so, So I know that doesn't exactly answer the question, but thank you for letting me share.
Thank you. Tangy or Tangi? Love that name.
Tangi. It's so interesting though, because what's funny is as I progress on the level of friendships, the harder it gets for me to say I can't do this. So superficial, casual, companion, friend, like most of those people, I would discuss that beforehand, be like, hey, look, I'm broke. This is what I can do. This is what I can't do. But in a committed relationship, I find it much harder to say beforehand. I very much am like, because I'm real generous and I'm very, so I have a hard time saying, hey, by the way, I can't pay for everything today. I need you to pay for your part, and it's crazy to me though, but and I guess it's just because with other people or like people that I'm not in a partnership with or that I'm not intimate with, I don't have a problem saying from the beginning, hey, I can't pay for your stuff today. I can't afford it or whatever. But in my personal relationship, that's harder for me. That's a lot harder.
That's the codependent part. You don't want them to run out or don't want them to leave. So I don't have any time for any more. Great. You guys are so fantastic. I'm going to put up some helpful hints for you. This is what I think, Deborah. Postpone your response and simply say, let me think, or I'll get back to you. Give yourself that pause so you can either call your sponsor or reflect on the question, see what pattern you're using, tell the truth without giving excuse. I usually give them a great big novel of worth of excuses why I can't do what they're asking me to do. Ask a clarifying question if you don't understand. There be some problem with this. Ask a question. Ask the yes. Be ready to sit in the uncomfortable puddle you just created. There's going to be consequences, especially with family. Don't do for others what they can do for themselves. Check your motives. I believe that's the most important one. Check your motives. Why am I reacting? Why am I doing this? Give them options so they can maintain their power, alleged power. Call your sponsor. Talk to your higher power. If you're not practicing acceptance, patience, and tolerance, you're practicing a pattern. Think about that. That's important. You talk to yourself, you can talk yourself back out of it. And that's what I have for you today, ladies and gentlemen. It's always been fun. And thank you so much. That's me. If you want a copy of anything, just email me. There you go. And thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Karen.
you,
Great
Karen.
presentation.
Thank you.
Good meeting. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Karen. Thank you. Fantastic.
So we got a 15-minute break, and then we'll be setting up for the next ones. I'm going to stop the recording.